not do one now? And as you can see, we've got the GO train with the F unit and my 4 double-decker cars. Set the chat to live chat here quickly, so hopefully I don't miss any messages. BD Vids, welcome to the live stream. Model Train Mania, Dom's Railway, Joseph Batts, North American Trains. Oh, we got a subscriber who's been here since like 100. Thanks for joining in, North American. Onion Pacific, Train Boys, Stuff David, Drobridge, Anthony Hill, HO Skill, Trains 150, Adam X 316, BN Brett 1376, JC's Trains and Games, SP Nampa 285, Justin Green, Shocks Trains, DMC, Dom's Railway, Kirk Bailey, Georgie Little, Nolan Snyder, Joseph Batts, pretty sure I already read that one, Hillbilly Railroad, Six Small Wheel Productions, Jacob McDorman, hope I'm pronouncing that one right, Oscar Torres, Leanne Moda, Cheese Wonton, William D., 4449 Productions. SMT, have you watched or heard of the movie Unstoppable? I watched Unstoppable when it came out in the theaters. Me and my dad went to see it back in 2010. It's certainly not, a super realistic movie. If you know enough about trains, you'll see a lot of mistakes. But you know what? If you look at it from just a fun movie with some trains in it, it's all right. It's been a while since I've seen the GO train. Yeah, I don't know. Everything's running really well, I have to say. It hasn't derailed. I had this going before I started the live stream. It ran for like 20 minutes straight without any issues, so really good to see that. Nathan Delay, welcome. Do you have an FP40? I've got a few of those, yeah. I've gotten a couple of Amtrak ones, a few VIA ones, a Canadian National one, which didn't actually exist, but Lifelike made them. I think I've got a few more other than that as well. Nickel Plate Railroad, hello? Clicked as soon as I saw the notification. Train Boy Stuff, have you noticed my name from Train Boy Productions to Train Boy Stuff? To be honest, I didn't notice the difference, but nice to see it. Matt, New Haven Model Railroad, how you doing this evening, Matt? Catherine M, you inspired me to make my own railroad. I'm really happy to hear that. Such a wonderful hobby to be in, and I don't know. The fact that people are joining in because they've seen some of these videos, it's just great. Atlanta Rail Fan Productions, thank you so kindly for the super chat. And the super chat says, hey, SMT, how are you doing this fine evening? Not too bad. How are you doing yourself? JC's Trains, how are you doing? Not bad. How are you? Hello, Harrison. Just hopped onto the stream. How's it going over there? Well, I don't know. Things are pretty good. How's it in Canada? A lot of people asking how's it going. Let's just say in general, things are going pretty well. Hi from Michigan. Can you run a BNSF? I don't see why not. As a matter of fact, we might be able to get one going on the inside track on the second layout. I don't know. Why don't we get 2 trains going? That'll be fun. How's Hershey, Canada? All right. Not much has changed, but I did build this shed yesterday. That was fun. I don't know. I think I might have got the math wrong. Something just looks a little... Well, actually, now that I'm looking at it from this angle, it looks right, but for some reason from above, something looks wrong about it. I don't know. Doing the math is sort of tricky because, of course, I don't have actual measurements of the factory. So what I need to do in order to get measurements is I need to go on Google Earth Pro. What I do is I measure out the dimensions, and then I go on Google Maps and I compare the dimensions. So like I'll compare, let's say, this width to the height, and then that's how I determine what the height is. But I have a feeling that maybe how the scaling is done probably makes things a little off. So I don't know. I feel like some of these dimensions are not perfect, but I can't really think of a better way of converting a real size factory into HO scale. All right, well, looks like the train's okay. Now all we need to do is figure out if the BNSF can actually handle the corners on this, which is it's a maybe. Can you show us the Hiawatha? There's the Fox Valley models, and there's the River Rossi. This is usually where I store the BNSF unit. I'm not seeing it right now. It might be right in front of me and I'm just not seeing it. Yeah, I don't know where the BNSF's at. Could you please run a 210-2? Well, in the meantime of finding the BNSF, I guess we'll have that pull this freighter around the layout. Again, I'm not sure if it can handle the curves on this, but we'll try it. The turbo train at Main Model Works was $500. Well, that's good to know. That honestly, in comparison to what you might pay on eBay, doesn't sound like too bad a deal. Although that is in American dollars, so I don't know what that would convert to in Canadian dollars. Probably $700. I might be wrong. I'm not fantastic in math. I'm just making a rough guess. All right. So if we can, there's a 210-2. How's the progress on the new expansion? Not a terribly large amount of stuff the last few days. I've been kind of figuring out how I want to go about this, but I think I'm either going to buy a switch. That way I can add a switch to this line right here and run that into some extra tracks, which will split off at the end. Or option 2 is a little more elaborate, but basically I'd run a line off of this. One line goes straight into this layout, but then we have another line which would branch off, go in here, cross over that track, curve back around, and then connect up to some tracks here, which again would spur off into several lines for storage. Because it would be really good if I could store some of my larger trains. Can you run Runaway Train 1985? I mean, I don't see why not. I haven't run that in a while. We'll try to get this whole rig working, though. I'm not sure how that's going to go. This is a certified hood classic. Oh, I don't doubt it. Anyway, let's test the mechanics of Mahano. Do you still accept locomotives from fans? If somebody wants to send, a locomotive into the channel, I'm more than complimented it. People have just been so generous. But I've got quite a few locomotives, so I just don't want people sending things, like parts of their collection that are like important to them and stuff. I don't feel good about that. So if somebody really wants to send something that they don't care about, feel more than free. Again, it means a lot, but you know what? Don't feel any pressure to is what I'm saying. It's Mahano, of course, versus saying Tyco, of course. Yes, I would agree with that. I think Tyco might have become part of IHC, though, which was also part of Mahano. So I guess Tyco and Mahano are kind of the same company. What's a good type of track for a permanent layout? I use mostly Atlas Snaptrack, but a lot of people in the hobby really like Pico, especially for their switches. In fact, the train club I'm part of pretty much uses only Pico switches, so they seem okay. It's not really one bad way to do it, and keep in mind you can mix and match. The only thing I would recommend is if you're running older equipment, use code 100 track. Because the thing is that on older equipment, the flanges are really large, and code 100 has the thickest rail. So it will be okay with older equipment, but if you get code 83 or lower, you might run into problems. So if you're using all modern equipment, go with whatever gauge of rail you want, but hey, if you're using older stuff, especially from like the 80s, yeah, go with code 100. All right. What all of you think? Is the Mahano 210-2 going to be able to handle the corner over there with the switch? I don't know. It might have a problem. But we'll see. You know, major props to Mahano. They built a 210-2 which can handle ridiculously tight corners and a switch. Crazy. I'd love to see a Bachmann engine do that. Harrison, I have an old Union Pacific 060 from the 70s or 80s that has some equipment issues, so I was wondering if you may want it and if you can fix it up on your channel. I mean, again, if you do not want it anymore, like, feel more than free, but, yeah, I wish I could still do repairs for people, because, I do like, you know, fixing stuff for people, and I still do local repairs for people, but the problem with doing international repairs was that the shipping was giving me a lot of problems. So I'm not sure where I want to head with that. Hey, SMT, I took apart and cleaned a power torque after watching you. Oh, good. I hope you can get that running well. The power torques can be a little finicky, but if you maintain them often enough, they can be fun. How do you know if a locomotive is DCC? There isn't really a way to tell if a locomotive is DCC other than putting it on the track with the DCC controller and testing it that way, or opening it up and seeing if there's a DCC decoder in it. Sometimes some locomotives, if they're used, if you see like a number on the roof, that can be an indicator that they're DCC, because some people decided to use numbers which were different from the road numbers, so like they'll have like a 7, a 3, or something like that. But it doesn't guarantee it has a decoder. It's just an indication that it might. Where's Runaway Train 1985? We're getting there. It takes time. This thing seems to be having some electrical issues, but I'm genuinely impressed that it can handle this. Can you run any kind of Santa Fe warb on it? Well, I think we'll put the Runaway Train on first, but yeah, we can run that. I mean, maybe we could run this new gem. When did you start working on the layout? This section was started in 2007, this section in 2012, this section in 2018, and this section in 2020. How's the extension going? I was talking about that earlier. There hasn't been too much progress because I'm kind of deciding what exactly I want to do with it. But overall, I don't think it's looking too bad. I think these mountains have turned out okay. Trying to blend them into the previous mountains has not gone perfectly, but I'll do a little more work, and I think things will probably be okay. Anyway, let's get the GO train off the main line, and then we'll get the 80s famous Runaway Train on. I think I'll just stop the GO train in front of that switch there, which should make it pretty easy. SMT, were you still going to build that layout where you're making a video series of how to build the layout? That's still the plan, but if I'm honest with all of you, it's been a bit of a challenge because, you know, I want the advice to be balanced, and the problem that I find, you know, kind of intimidates a lot of people getting into the hobby is that people kind of overwhelm them with advice. So I'm trying to find, I want to do a video that has a right balance of, you know, enough valuable advice that people will have a better time building a layout, but not so much advice that they get overwhelmed and don't know what to do. Because there are a lot of people and they make very good videos, and I think their intentions are in the right place, but they just have so much, you know, detailed information that, like, I can't say. I think if I was getting into the hobby and I saw that video, I'd be feeling terribly good about, you know, setting things up. So, yeah, I don't know. I do really want to do that, but I don't know. Maybe I'm going at it too cautiously. I'm new to this hobby, and I want to model the Buffalo and Pittsburgh Railroad, but no one has done them. What should I do? If you're looking, if nobody's made models of those engines, really the only two ways I think you could actually get that done would either be to find somebody who's good at scratch building and have them either repaint or build a current model, or if you're ambitious enough, try to do it yourself. It can be a challenge, and the first time you do a project, it's not going to turn out perfectly, but I don't know, the first time you get something done to a level that you like it, there's not really a better feeling. Like, for example, building a 1980s Runaway train model. Let me go find that now. Yeah, this. I always wanted to build something like this. Didn't think I could, but you know what? You go at things one piece at a time, and this is not the most realistic model out there, but again, it's all about getting things to a level that you're satisfied with. Can you run the super large Santa Fe from the previous video? Yeah, absolutely. I'll just run the Runaway train first because it was requested before that. Hi SMT, do you know of any ways to obtain an SP4449 model? I can't seem to find them from any companies that I deem reputable. It's really difficult, and honestly, that's been the challenge because my 4449 has not been running great, so, I've been considering buying a new one, but the challenge is, I'm not the biggest fan of Bachmann's quality, but Bachmann's building the cheapest models, and then there are other manufacturers that are also building them, which may be more reliable. I don't know for a fact, but they cost, double, 3 times the price. So, yeah, I couldn't tell you because I'm kind of in the same boat. Hey SMT, what are your opinions on Facebook Marketplace? Facebook Marketplace really doesn't seem bad. I mean, obviously you have to watch what you're buying because, in my opinion, most of what you'd buy at like a model train shop, even if it's used, it's probably going to be more reputable than a lot of sellers on Facebook Marketplace. To tell you the truth, I've never actually bought any trains off of Facebook Marketplace. I've bought all sorts of other things off there, but I will say that just for an example, like I bought a boat motor off Facebook Marketplace, an old outboard, and the seller said, "Oh, it's in great condition. I was using it this week and stuff." I get it home and there's water in the fuel lines. It probably hadn't been run in years, and I've had that experience with several other things I bought off Facebook Marketplace. So I'm not saying that that's necessarily the experience you'll have. I'm just saying it's a possibility. So I don't know. There could be stuff on there where people are just trying to get rid of it, even though they know it has problems and it could. So be careful. Model trains are much more simplistic in comparison to an outboard, though, so probably less likely to be scammed. Can you do some switching? I wish I could, but I'm not the best person at switching to begin with, and my freight yard is not fully assembled yet. Neither are, well, that's pretty much my only freight yard. If I bought a car on Facebook, it would likely be junk. Yeah, I mean, I think there is an opportunity to make some good deals on Facebook Marketplace, and same goes for Craigslist and in Canada, Kijiji. But yeah, you have to be careful, what you buy, and you also have to be careful. Take what the seller says with a grain of salt, because there's a lot of sellers out there which will tell you what you want to hear, but whether or not it's the truth or not, you have to be careful there. And there are some sellers too where they're not necessarily lying to you, they just aren't knowledgeable enough to tell you, what it is you're asking, basically. And in those cases, again, they might just give you the answers that you want to hear, even though they don't know what they're talking about. Ask sellers for videos. That's a very wise way to go about it, Ask them to run it, especially if it's DCC, and it's sound equipped or something. Get them to prove it. Would you ever consider buying Thomas or European locomotives if you like Thomas? Not so gung-ho about buying the Thomas and Friends models. I loved the show as a kid, but I don't know, I just don't really see the need to put them on the layout. European locomotives, absolutely. I have a few, and I'd love to expand my collection of them. What are the different types of locomotives? I have one that I can't identify that's making an odd clicking sound. Could I send you a pic of the engine to identify it? Yeah, absolutely. If you want to send an email to scrumptiousmodeltrains.com, at gmail.com, sorry. I'd be happy to help you with that. If it's making an odd clicking noise, though, to me that sounds like an 80s Bachmann. A lot of the old Bachmann engines had nylon gears, which were prone to cracking, and when the gears do crack, as the motor turns over, it will just make a bit of a clicking noise. That can happen to any engine, though. I've had other engines which are not Bachmann, and the same things happen. A gear's cracked or a piece of ballast has gone into the drive, and that can also make a clicking noise. So that would be the two places I would probably check out. If you can establish a relationship with the seller, they may take the time to take a video. Yeah, absolutely. And I also find, like, write a genuine message, because there's, like, Facebook sellers just hate it when you send the generic, like, hi, is this still available? Like, some of them will not even respond to those messages. So personalize the message about the product. Ask them a question, can you send me a video of it working, or just something that relates to it, a little bit more. And, obviously to double checking your spelling and everything too. I find just trying to be as professional as possible really does help you. SMT, a video of mine hit 1,000 views today for the first time. Congratulations. Hello from Como, Italy. Oh, we've got somebody from the same place that River Rossi came from. Do you have any maintenance of the way equipment? Yep. Got this little speeder set. This is a Bachmann Spectrum rig. It looks pretty nice in my opinion. I'm not a super big fan of Bachmann, but it was going for 70 bucks. It's all made out of metal. It's not bad. Thank you for showing the Runaway train from 1985. Also, is it possible to make another video with the train from 1985? It's possible. I just haven't had an opportunity where, I felt it was necessary. I had the last video I made of this was running it out in the snow, and that was special because, of course, it made the whole scene looked a lot like the movie, so that was kind of nice. But I don't know. I just don't want to be taking random videos of the same thing, I want there to be something kind of exciting about it. I'm gonna have to watch this movie again. I really love the movie Runaway Train. It's a bit of an odd movie, but I don't know. Always notice something new every time. How long has that abandoned F unit been sitting on the bridge? I don't remember. I think it's been there for probably about 2 years now. It's not an actual locomotive though that I scrapped. I had scrap parts and I put it together, so I don't know how many people know this, but you see what I mean? Like, this was all junk parts. This was a junk shell, junk frame. Like, this was all stuff I was going to throw out. So instead of throwing it out, I just decided to put everything together and make something special. And I just took some either matte black or matte brown spray paint and just kind of lightly dusted it with that. And it really does give a kind of rusted or, faded paint look. I really like it. A channel called S-E just gave a super chat of $20. Thank you so much. That's very generous. Hi, SMT. How is your grandmother's locomotive? Also, could you run a steamer? Yes and yes. So to answer your first question, the Hiawatha, it's doing pretty well. I haven't fully restored it yet. It still needs the drivers, but overall, it's running well. It's got the new neodymium magnets installed. So everything's not too bad, and I had to do a small repair on the tender recently, but overall it's in the best shape it's been in many decades, so yeah, really no complaints there. Now, can I run a steam engine? Why don't we run the Fox Valley Hiawatha, just in the spirit of that. There were some pretty messed up scenes in the movie Runaway Train, Harrison, like when the train came out of the yard, lost a brake shoe, and the guy picked it up and burned himself. Yeah, it's not a light movie. I mean, I think it's rated R actually, and I was watching it back when I was like 10 or something like that. So maybe not the best movie to be watching at that age. But do I regret it? No, it was wonderful. It's got I don't know. There's not another movie I can think of that is like Runaway Train, but it is pretty dark. I think we'll leave the Runaway Train right here. Why not? We have got Dinner from the Dining Car. I see Anton's rebranded his channel. Anyway, good evening. Episode 50 has been released of Dinner from the Dining Car. So if you guys want to cook some meals that are based on meals they were cooking on real trains, go watch Dinner from the Dining Car. I don't think anybody else is doing that on YouTube. What's your favorite type of music to listen to? 80s rock. There's some rock from the 70s. It's pretty good too, but I don't know. I think the 80s had it going. Obviously, tons of other good genres of music, and it's not just the 80s that had good music. So did the 50s, 60s, 70s, obviously 80s, 90s. They're all right. Got some good rap in there. 2000s even. I feel like the 2000s are kind of underrated. I mean, it was all kind of trashy music, but as far as pop goes, I can't say I don't like it. Hey, SMT, guess what ghosts are in my house? Literally shut my lights off. Has this ever happened to you? And can you run a Pennsylvania Railroad GG1? Can't say I've had that happen to me. Can you run a Pennsylvania GG1? Yeah, I don't see why not. We'll run the Hiawatha first, though. And I'm also going to run that giant Santa Fe engine, because I did say I was going to, so why not? I like the Wang Chung, Everybody Have Fun Tonight music video. It's fantastic. I don't know. I feel like that's kind of a song that's been forgotten, which is too bad. I mean, it's not a high-quality song. I'm not going to say, like, Wang Chung Tonight is one of the best pieces of music that's ever been created. I get why a lot of people don't like it, but I can't say I don't, especially the music video, too. It just fits it so well. Anyway, I guess we'll just run the engine as is. Does anybody know the Canadian American Railroad? I have a GP40 of 1, and I'm going to turn it into a high hood soon. I don't think I've heard of that railroad before. SMT, I was thinking of buying a dummy locomotive and turning it into a powered engine. Should I do it? It's very ambitious. I mean, if you can do it and pull it off, that's terrific, but I think putting something like that together could be quite a challenge, especially since, like, if you're talking about turning a display locomotive into something that's working, a lot of the display engines, the wheels are made out of plastic, so trying to get power to a motor and then adding a drive system to that certainly wouldn't be easy. The only way I could see it maybe not being ridiculously complicated is if you, for example, like with the big boy model, if you could get the wheels turning well enough that it didn't take much force to push it, you might be able to put a drive in the tender and make it a tender-driven model, but even there, could be a challenge. I think we got another super chat. Awesome steamer, you should visit the abandoned trains down here in Maine. That sounds exciting. I don't know where, if I remember seeing some video about some abandoned trains in Maine. I'm not sure if those are the same ones that you're referring to, but I actually don't know where they're located. We got our runner t-shirts. A lot of people have been asking for merch. I think I need to get on with putting something together with that. SMT, can you show and tell us what you think of your cheapest locomotive? Sure, we're gonna run this thing first, though. Let's bring the Hiawatha around for one more lap. I've been to the abandoned trains twice. Wow. If it's an Athearn unit, it's easy because you need the motor, you got the right trucks in the drive system, get it to travel along the track. Yeah, converting an Athearn dummy would be super easy because Athearn pretty much used all the same parts in their dummy engines that they used in their powered engines. Obviously, there was no motor or lights, there was no electrical system, and they put plastic wheels on it. But if you had the parts off of a junked engine, all the gears and everything, it would not be hard to convert one. But yeah, turning a kit like a static display engine into a runner, I don't know. Somebody has to have done it once. I just don't think it would be a super easy thing to do. Years ago, somebody was trying to convince me to turn one of those Revell big boys into a working model, and I don't know. I did look into it, but it might be beyond, I think it is beyond my level of expertise, probably by a long shot. All right. The abandoned steam locomotives are in the Allagash regions. The abandoned trains are used to run logs in between Chamber Lake and Eagle Lake. And when time to time came, it was cheaper to leave them behind. I'm happy that that's what happened. Super interesting to have some abandoned engines instead of them just going to scrap. So we'll run this thing right to the end of the line and then bring it back. Super exciting, but somebody wanted a war bonnet train, and why not run this? I am intending, by the way, to try to turn this into a model which can handle the curves, and I've been thinking about how I could do this because getting the back truck to turn 360 degrees, I'm starting to reckon would not be that difficult. I would just need something that can pivot far enough. And that's possible these types of trucks, if I removed the weights, could actually already do that. So that's one problem out of the way. And for the drive, I was thinking about it because trying to get a drive which can turn 365 degrees, that's very challenging. But it's been done because a lot of the old AHM engines have drives where the shaft of the motor is what actually is holding the truck in place, and as a result, if you remove a certain screw, it can actually pivot. It could pivot 360 degrees. The problem is the shell would get in the way, but if I remove these parts and add one of those drives, this could probably turn up to 90 degrees, which would be more than enough to probably allow this thing to handle the curves on my layout. We'll have to see, but I've been thinking about how I could modify this thing to actually be kind of a working engine. All right, I was supposed to run something after this. My short-term memory is not good. The GG1, yes, that's it. Yeah, why don't we take out this River Rossi one, because it runs pretty dandy. Your cheapest locomotive. I did also say I was going to run that, but I'm pretty sure I did say I was going to run that first. I'll get it out just so I don't forget. I have a question. What are the 3 controllers you have above your DC and DCC controller? So this is the sound DC controller. It's basically just a regular DC controller, but with some fun sound functions. The speakers are shut off, so that's not working, but sort of an interesting feature. This is just my tried and true DC controller with some special gauges which can help diagnose how an engine is functioning. DCC controller. This is just for electrical blocks. And this controller is dedicated for the lights on the layout. sure you can see what I can dim them and stuff like that. See, this is what I'm saying. Look on these AHMs. Look how far the trucks can pivot. So if I could take a drive like this, put it on this engine, it might just work. Sirens and Railroads of Oklahoma. I got $30 for my birthday today. Well, happy birthday. Should I get tracks, buildings, or some used locomotives and cars? I'm not going to decide for you because it's all a matter of preference, but if I were you, if you got a train shop nearby, why not go down and see if they got anything exciting? Sometimes, I personally usually don't plan to buy a lot of the things I do. I just step into a train store and I see something and it's like, that's nice. Seems like a good price. I think I'll take it. SMT, have you ever planned on collecting an HO scale Union Pacific or Southern Pacific EMD SD70M or a BHE Iron Ore EMD SD70 ACE? They do sell, but hard to find. I'm not so sure. I did get a well, it wouldn't be EMD. I got a BHP engine from someone in Australia, and I think it's not an AC 4400. I think it's an AC 6000 or something like that. I might be mixing stuff up. SMT, what is your favorite model train manufacturer? Also, what is your favorite railroad company? Favorite railroad? It's Canadian National. Favorite model train manufacturer? I don't have one specifically because I like different manufacturers for different reasons. So like, for example, I really like Walters as a budget manufacturer. I find they make pretty high quality budget products, kind of like that engine I reviewed a few months ago. I like Rapido as a high detail manufacturer. They're not cheap engines, but they look good. For reliability at a high-ish price, Cato's pretty rocking. The old Athearn stuff for just budget used engines, it's fantastic. Atlas is also in that category. That's what comes to mind off the top of my head. Of course, AHM also made some pretty nice stuff back in the day, but they're no longer in business. But yeah, I can't pick one manufacturer just because one manufacturer may be better in detail, but not price and stuff. So they all have something, they all have their pros and cons. What's your opinion on the Canadian Pacific Pac-Man paint? I think it was a really, really cool design, and same, and I guess it would have been a similar Canada's zebra, Canadian National's zebra stripe. I think those looked really nice. The modern paint schemes for both Canadian Pacific and Canadian National are pretty nice, but I don't know. I don't think there's a generation that was bad, really. How's the Hershey's factory going? I got a shed built on top of it. That's about it at the moment. Hey, SMT, can you run an SP cab forward or a big boy? Well, I guess I can run a big boy. So this engine is something I bought for $3. It's kind of infamous / popular for that, because it's one of the few engines where I bought this thing dirt cheap, and with the exception of cleaning the wheels, I actually ran right away. So not a bad deal. Anyway, here it is. It's not very quiet. Hey SMT, I bought a brand new Bachmann Easy Command controller, and I'm wondering if there's a way to program sound on Bachmann sound value locomotives. I could be mistaken because I'm not an expert on DCC, but I don't believe there is. I'm not sure which easy command you're talking about, though, because if you're talking about the old easy command system, the one with 10 buttons on it, if I were to take a guess, probably not, but I know Bachmann came out with a modern version of their easy command system, which is a lot more detailed, so maybe on the new system you can. I'm not entirely sure. Somebody in the comments might be able to answer that, though. How well can that engine pull? It could probably pull 10 cars. It's not super strong, and it's only got four-wheel drive, but it has traction tires, which are always an advantage for four-wheel drive engines. SMT, are you planning on painting the unpainted F40? Absolutely. I'm just undecided as what I want to paint it into. Do you have any plans on expanding your layout? And can you run any adjacent to Pica Santa Fe locomotives if you have them? Sure. For expanding the layout, I'm pretty much taking up as much space as I can or should. I am in the process of adding this, which will, it's a pretty substantial amount of square footage when you add it all up, so it's pretty much an expansion. Is there a tutorial online showing how you do it? Not that I'm aware of. How's the track updates coming? Well, I haven't added anything new yet, but for those of you who weren't here earlier, my plan is roughly to either add a switch here to connect a whole bunch of extra tracks to, or the other option is I want to run a line down this way, and if I do so, I'm probably going to put a switch right here, and we'll run a line down here. We're going to put a cross-section inside the mountain, and then from there we're going to put a curve which will connect to several tracks. I could optionally do both, but that would get pretty complicated fast, so I don't know. Plus, trying to actually put a switch here and make the curve might be tricky, so I'm probably going to end up going with the option of running a train through the mountain, but we'll see. I don't know what radius I'll need here, but it's probably going to be pretty tight. SMT, I saw vintage locomotives and rolling stock accessories for sale on Amazon, except the vintage locomotives need work. The one I saw was a Tyco Lifelike, and the other old companies escaped my name. I've seen buildings and, well, yeah, just buildings, I think, from Tyco and Lifelike on Amazon, which I assume is new old stock, but I've never seen used locomotives on Amazon. That's sort of unusual. Go Vera, go home. Welcome. How are you? SMT, you should paint an engine to a custom SMT railway design. Maybe so. Although, if I painted up an engine with this color scheme, it's probably going to end up looking something like an Amtrak engine, which I didn't realize actually looks very similar to this. SMT, I have a small locomotive. It tricks a lot. I have some information that will help my journey to expand my layout with all my steam engines. Appreciate it. Thank you. Good man, working as usual. Oh, that's good to hear, Chris. Hey, SMT, I have an old Walters Trainline GP9, low hood, and it runs, but it can't move. One day I was running it, and I heard a pop, and then it stopped working. Do you think you know what's wrong with it? Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I don't know if it could have actually burned something in the circuit board out, or if that pop is something mechanical going out. If you hear the motor turning over, the the electrical system is still working properly. But if the motor's no longer turning over, I'd guess that pop was, I want to say a capacitor popping, but I don't know if those engines have capacitors in them. Yeah, if you want to send me an email about that, I might be able to help you with it. But, yeah, I'm not 100% sure what that would have been. Hey, look, the BNSF engine's been here the whole time. That's nice. SMT, if you could rebuild your layout from the ground up, what's one thing that you would change? Probably Yeah, the only thing I really don't like about this whole layout is that, you know, since it is a bit of a patchwork of different things, the track work is not completely even, and that leads to all sorts of problems with stuff uncoupling in certain places. And, you know, I do really try to fix what I can, but it's just a bit more of a challenge. So if I was building this thing from the ground up, I'd want to do, you know, higher quality track work on it. But other than that, I really do like this layout. And, you know, a lot of people have suggested, like, you got this space, man. Why don't you, you know, gut the whole thing and start all over, including with the bench work? And I really get where they're coming from, because from a practical standpoint, that would be a really intelligent option. You know, with what I've learned from these layouts, I could build something way better than what I have, but I don't think I'd want to, because there's just so much nostalgia and everything that I think if I rebuilt it, I don't think I would like it as much as what I have now. So yeah, for most people, I can understand the standpoint, but personally, I just want to stick with this layout and kind of renovate it just to make it more of what I want. Nash Railfan, welcome. Did you watch? Yeah, I watched Sesame Street as a kid. Great show. Randall Elson says, depends on how old the GP9 is. If it's from the same generation as mine, B40-8, it probably doesn't have capacitors. Almost sounds like a mechanical problem. I mean, it's not impossible that maybe something on the trucks popped out of place. As a matter of fact, I think those trucks are held in by clips similar to an Athearn engine, so maybe something caused them to come undone, and that's what's happening, because if one of those clips came undone, then the worm gear would also pop out, which might have made a funny noise. But yeah, other than that, there's nothing obvious coming to mind. So here's the big boy for everybody who wanted to see it. Hey SMT, do you remember the train controller you bought for or the train controller you made for $5? Yes, I do. I think I still have it, actually. Let me have a quick look here. It's not as good an idea as I kind of thought back then. I'll tell you why. Just trying to find it here. I thought I saw it the other day. Maybe not. The thing is that the controller I built was powered by a 9-volt battery, and you can power a model train with a 9-volt battery. The only problem is that when you're working with older models which have high current draw, it will fry those batteries really quickly, and 9-volt batteries are not cheap, so it's not a super practical way to power a model train. I will say, though, what you can do, if in a pinch, is a 9-volt battery. The terminals of a 9-volt battery are about the width of 2 train wheels. So you can carry a 9-volt battery with you to a train show, and if you want to test a model quickly to see if it runs, you can just attach the battery to the wheels and see if it turns. Doesn't work on all models. On old Tycos, it's not going to work because each truck picks up power from a different side, and there are a lot of different manufacturers that set things up that way. But for example, an old Blue Box, it's a really quick way to test one out. I dig the layout. I love how you brought them all together when you pulled a Marvel on us. Yeah, what's it called there, the Marvel series when they connect everything together? I don't know. The layout, in my opinion, does look a lot better now that everything's connected, though. And hopefully it will continue to be that way. You see the new part of the layout where you did the inspect. I can show it in detail, yeah. think I'm going to build a shopping center here. So we got a track here. So there's going to be a large space here, and we've already got kind of like road infrastructure. So if we connect everything together, there's definitely a room for a pretty large mall. So we're going to build a mall there. Obviously, we got a circus scene going on. I want to have a road going here. I want to build a small freight yard here for tons of different trains just to sit. And I'm pretty sure right here in this section, I want to go about building a just a little neighborhood. I have a couple houses here casually. Just be kind of like rural Canada or Midwestern America, something like that. What other scale would you collect and why? N scale is sort of appealing, and I'll tell you why. It's because since the trains and the track and everything is so small, if you want to build a really expensive layout, you really do not need that much space. Like a 4x8 layout for N scale is a huge layout, but for HO it's more medium, you know? So, yeah, that's the one thing. Like, if you wanted to build a huge freight yard in N scale, it'd be pretty easy. Wouldn't need a terribly large amount of space, really. I like O scale. It's a lot of fun. The larger trains really have a lot more presence than HO or N. But unless you've got a lot of space on your hands, it's not a very practical scale. SMT, I have a Bachmann ACS64 that makes a weird noise from the motor. Have any advice? I find a lot of the older Bachmanns naturally just do make some funny noises. If it's struggling to move or something like that, I would probably investigate, because it's possible there's something wrong with the drive. But if it's just making, I don't know, just like almost like a bit of a humming noise, but it's running fine, I think it's just how they built those. I had a Bachmann engine which was making a bit of a funny noise, and I thought if I open it up, clean it out, give it some fresh oil, it'll be okay. And it really didn't end up fixing the problem, unfortunately. Auto Model Rail Fan, welcome. Bachmann clicking noise gears. That's a common problem on older Bachmann models. Ottawa, have you been? I'm well. How are you, Ottawa? Do you have a Commodore Vanderbilt? If so, can you run it? Unfortunately, I don't have one of those. Anyway. Okay, that's bad. I cranked up the power and the engine slowed down. I kind of remember something like this engine might have been smoking on a previous live stream. I don't know. It probably needs to be serviced. Anyway, a while back I did say I was going to run the BNSF unit, so I guess we'll do that now. Why not? How would you suggest cleaning locomotive wheels without any wheel cleaning equipment? If you're in a pinch, you can just grab some Q-tips and rubbing alcohol, and that will remove oil and carbon off the wheels. It's not the best way to clean wheels just because most rubbing alcohols have some water in them, so they can actually oxidize the wheels, which is bad. And you have to be careful too that you don't get fibers from the cotton swabs into the drive of the engine, because it can very easily become wrapped around the wheels. But yeah, just put your engine on the track, run it a bit, clean one section of each wheel, and you run it like, you know, a half an inch forward, and you clean that section, and it can help. If you've never done it before, it can be helpful. But again, I'm saying in a pinch, because over the long run, oxidizing your wheels is bad. Why are you ignoring me, SMT? I don't intentionally ignore anybody's comments, but there are algorithms which decide what comments get shown first, and even though I have it set to live chat, which should be unbiased, it is for whatever reason. But I never intentionally ignore anybody's comments, and, you know, unless somebody says something inappropriate. It's just, you know, 230 people commenting at the same time through a screen that's, you know, 1.5 inches wide. You know, some are not going to be shown, or some might be missed. I do apologize. How do I get nature scale Walters mainline ES44AC with DCC after shut off because of running on a bad layout? Shut off after running on a bad layout. I'm not sure. DCC is kind of another ball game. You could try doing a factory reset on the decoder. Sometimes I've had problems with my DCC engines, and just resetting it to the defaults has fixed it. But I don't really know what you mean by a bad layout. If you mean a bad layout isn't like the power, however they're powering it is bad. Especially if you're running a DCC engine on an old DC controller, there is a risk that you burn something out. Hopefully not, but my suggestion would be just doing a factory reset. If that doesn't work, haul it off to a hobby shop. Hopefully somebody there can figure it out. Or before you go about doing that, maybe contact the manufacturer, because some manufacturers have warranties, and maybe they'll fix it for you at a price, or maybe they'll do it for free. I don't know. I'd look into that. Maybe you might want to contact the manufacturer before going to a train store, though, because if a train store fixes it, you know, their technicians probably are not, you know, certified by whatever company has made it. But so if they open it up and they do something to it, it might void a warranty. Can you run a daylight if it still runs? If not, then the Elco PA units with the daylight passenger cars. I'm pretty sure I put the daylight cars away. Oh no, I'm wrong. Actually, they're over there. Sure, we can do that. Any American Flyer out there? I've got a bit of American Flyer HO. Yeah, so she's going. Not much progress, but I did build that the other day. It's pretty amazing how much time it can take, though. I mean, even though this was a simple build, I probably still sunk, like, maybe 1.5 hours just to build that little part. It's all, most of the time, building it is not the most time-consuming part. It's just doing all the math. I just want to test to see if this thing is actually running. Yeah, I was afraid of that. Something is not right about this engine. This is really odd. This is an Athearn Blue Box engine, but that's a very... I don't think I've seen an Athearn engine with that style of plate before. But it sounds like one of the gears, like it's bouncing over a gear or something like that. I don't know. I better not run that. Somebody wanted an American Flyer engine, though, and I'm pretty sure I got one of those running pretty recently, so maybe we'll put daylight cars on and pull it with a small American Flyer steam engine. Yeah, I don't think this is going to work great, but yeah, let's try it out. Okay. That's good enough. Those are the older versions, Harrison. I got one like it. Hold on a moment here. Maybe I'm just mixing stuff up, because maybe it's one of those kind of 50s, early 60s era models. Yeah, see, this is an older model, but it's still got the conventional connection. Which is funny, because I would assume an engine like this would be older than that Alco. Interesting. Hello, SMT. I have a small cherry red locomotive. It stops and goes. I need some advice. I have a channel. I'll post a video. My name is on. If you can go help me out, I'd really appreciate it. If an engine is starting and stopping, I mean, it obviously means you've got some sort of an electrical problem. I mean, the first thing to do is the easiest, just clean the wheels. Could just be a dirty spot on the wheels. But that sounds an awful lot like maybe a broken solder joint. Could be any number of things, though. I mean, the amount of different things which could cause a bad electrical connection are pretty high. Should have put this car ahead of the dome car. Hold on a minute. There's only 2 solid joints and 4 wheels. I cleaned them, but it still does it. I would check the connections on the side of the motor too, because of course those can always go bad. I don't know what kind of motor this engine you're talking about has, so I can't be sure. But if it's got one of those kind of open frames, I would also clean the commutator, because there could be some trouble there. Maybe check the brushes. Make sure they're doing their jobs. Always check the contacts themselves too, because if you have an engine that's using wipers, if they're not applying enough pressure, sometimes that can cause issues. Okay, I'm definitely missing couplers, because I definitely had a 3-car consist going at one point, and now I don't. Alright, well, here's our 2-car Baltimore and Ohio daylight. Liam, welcome. Oh, this is quite nice. This is an isolated frog, so that's probably why this is. A lot of engines have been getting stuck here. I'm surprised the big boy did, though. I mean, it's a large enough engine, you think it would clear that. Hey, SMT, can you run a DC engine on a Dcc layout? Alright, the simple answer is yes. The complicated answer is you can, but you have to be really careful, because if you're running an older DC engine, there's always power in Dcc tracks. It's 14 volts, usually 16 volts, sometimes 12. So even if you have the engine at a stop, it's still getting full power, basically. If a motor is sitting and power's flowing to it, and you've got an older motor which is less efficient, you can sometimes overheat the motor and actually burn it out. So if you are running an older DC engine on DCC, which to begin with I don't really recommend, but if you decide to do it, always keep the engine moving at a good speed. Don't run it slow. Don't stop it like that, because it can trash the motor. I would also suggest too with older locomotives. I wouldn't try this on something super sentimental to begin with, but you know, get some engines to practice on, or take them to a hobby shop and service the commutators, because in a lot of cases the commutators is one of the first parts to fail on a motor, and if you keep them really clean and you clean out the little gaps, they can last an awful long time. But I've seen a lot of motors, you know, they haven't been serviced frequently enough, and that problem becomes so severe, it destroys the commutator, and then you know, that's the end of that motor. When if it had just been cleaned, it could have probably run for, you know, 10, 20, who knows how many more years, because the brushes are still in good shape. They're still quite long, got a lot of life in them. But the same goes for almost all DC motors. It's always the commutator that's like the first part to fail. Even I had the starter on my boat, it failed one day. I opened it up. What were the two problems? One problem was a brush which had worn right down to the metal. But the other problem was that the commutator on this great big motor was just packed with carbon. So just to test it, I just cleaned out all the carbon from the commutator, put this brush back in there, and it turned over fine. I replaced it because this is in horrible shape, but it just goes to show you that a perfectly good DC motor was being junked just because it hadn't been maintained in, you know, maybe 50 years. Anyway, I think we'll run maybe, I don't know, 3 more trains, and then I think we'll call it a night, because house is getting quiet, which would indicate everyone's heading off to bed, but still want to run a few more trains. Why not? What steam engines actually have a smoke generator? A lot of the older ones do, funny enough. I think even some modern high-end ones do, but smoke generators are something that you have to be pretty careful with, because a lot of them you actually have to have oil burning on them, or else they can overheat and burn the plastic, so that's one thing. They don't, I find, last very often. The smoke fluid can damage the plastic, so you have to be pretty careful not to get it on the plastic. It can damage the paint. Yeah, they can be a lot of trouble if you're not careful. I mean, this is not the biggest issue, and I don't know this for a fact, but I can't imagine the stuff they're burning in there is very good to be breathing in, especially if you're in a small space. I don't know. I find the truth is most oils that are getting combusted, it's usually not healthy stuff to be breathing in. So, I mean, I don't want to take the fun out of everything. All I'm saying is be careful with the stuff. How many people live in your house, and is your cat, Nerf cat? Well, it looks like I'm doing the survey. It's just my family. Nerf cat, yeah, he's the family cat, but I'm particularly attached to him. Had him for since the summer of 2009. It's great kitty. Can you also run your Australian engine? Sure. You can get smoke fluid that smells like bacon. Well, that seems pretty appealing. What are your thoughts on the Thomas and Friends reboot? I don't know, because I don't actually know when the reboot was. I mean, I know they came out with some animated version later, but I was no longer really watching the show by that point. This is running quite nice. There's the sound. And that seems bad. I don't know why the current draw just spiked like that. What does SMT stand for? Scrumptious Model Trains. SMT, do you remember the apple tree incident? That, for anybody who doesn't know, because it happened a long time ago, was where I was actually building the parking lot here. And I guess the drywall or whatever I was using, it started to flood over into the grass and it was staining it. So I went and got a hairdryer to try to dry it so it stopped doing damage. And the hairdryer ended up blowing all these little scale apples all into the ballast, which was not glued down. Not a fun thing to clean up. Do you play Trains or Train Simulator? I have not in a long time. My favorite of the bunch is Microsoft Train Simulator, followed by Trains. But yeah, I own like Trains 2010. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I bought a new copy of Trains, I think on Steam, Trains A New Era, which is from like, I think 2015 or so. Real cheap, and I don't know. I was having a real tough time getting grips with it. Do you want a car SMT? No, not really. But I might. Hey SMT, can you please run a Canadian National Locomotive BC? Oh, not BC, because I actually say a CN on a BNSF lead just yesterday in Southern California. Also, how is Nerf Cat doing? Nerf Kitty's doing well. And yeah, I can run a CN engine. Now, why don't we run this Legend? I was thinking of maple smoke fluid because Canada's favorite. Maple smoke fluid would be terrific. Can you imagine at a Canadian train show, people would think that was the best thing ever, especially if it was like a Canadian steam locomotive. And you got some Canadian maple bacon smoke fluid. Oh, that would be something. What happened to Anna's pregnant box? Oh, Peter Wacko, hey. Yeah, this is, I believe, is the box you're referring to. I saw there's, well, I don't want to show it because I think there could be some addresses, but from what I understand, and Peter, you can correct me on this, it said something about opening this box with a family, my family, so I don't know, I guess he wanted everybody to be involved with this one, so I've been saving it, but trying to coordinate with my entire family, I don't know, might be tricky. I've never done a video with all of them, though, so I'll have to see if they're on board with that, but yeah, if that's what you want, be happy to give it a go. This is, yeah, when this thing arrived in the mail, though, I don't know, this is, I don't know, it's a T-shaped box. You don't see that every day. Somebody also sent some massive box, that box right there, can you believe that? It weighs a ton. I have no idea what's inside it. I'm really looking forward to opening it up, but there's been a lot happening lately. I want to do that unboxing justice. I don't just want to crack it open on some random day. There'll be a time, but yeah, I am really wondering what is in there. If you remember Paris's trains, I haven't seen them in months. Well, I think their YouTube account got banned. I don't know. They contacted me a long time ago about that. I haven't heard from them, though. Norfolk and Western. Is that what that is? No, that's Western Pacific. Never mind. Do you remember Trains Across America? Was that program, I think, from the 90s? And I don't know, they'd just show like a train trip, and there'd be some narrator with a really nice voice describing the trip. It rings a bell. I think that's what it was about. I think I might have watched that as a kid. Okay, well, since the chat is starting to block my messages from getting to you all, ask this one more time. Can you please make a 2222 steam engine? Oh boy, how do you make a two-wheel drive steam engine? That would be a nightmare. I don't think I can pull that off. Can you make a music video? Music video, eh? I don't know. Hey SMT, do you remember the road number of the Canadian Pacific Heritage Unit in the maroon gray paint scheme a while ago? I can't say I do. Can you please run your smallest locomotive? I think that's what this is. I'm kind of excited because I'm pretty sure the flea market with all the model trains is coming back this year. Either this year or in January, we'll have to see. But if I can get to go to that, it's going to be a good day. Come on, little Whitcomb. That's bad. Huh, motor's not starting. That's weird. Sometimes the brushes are just not doing their job, and then you give the engine a little tap, and it comes back. This box is for the family. There are some things in you for everyone and your cat. Okay, so it's for the entire family, but do you want me to unbox it with the entire family, or you want me to unbox it and just give the gifties to everybody that they're for? Where is this market? I'm up in Pembroke, so it might not be far for you. I'd love to add to my collection. The flea market is usually at St. Anthony's Soccer Hall in the Little Italy part of Ottawa, but St. Anthony's has been having problems with mold, maybe asbestos. I might be wrong. So they're having some problems with the building. So I'm not 100% sure if they'll host it there again, but that's where it's been every other year. I'm gonna have to talk to my train buddies because they're always in the know about this stuff a lot more than I usually am. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll mention it because, well, it's sort of an unknown thing. I didn't know about the flea market for a long time, and honestly, it's the closest thing Ottawa has had to a train show since about 2011. So it's pretty rockin'. You're never gonna get better deals. A 222 would be either a European or an English locomotive. That must be a complicated thing. I don't know. I'm trying to imagine that. Can you run a GG1 as your last engine for the stream? Because people are asking for it before you end the stream. Also, do you remember when you pranked us with your sister on April Fools? She's done a couple pranks on April Fools, yeah. The rabbit, I'm gonna assume I'm late. Well, every one video of you all. Alright, well, it looks like I'm gonna have to try to get the fam together to do an unboxing. That will be a first. Alright. This engine was saved. It was sent to me from this gentleman with a bunch of other engines. Basically, it had corroded, the motor had gone bad, it was full of rust, and I had tried to restore 2 of the Rossi motors unsuccessfully, and this one had the same problem, so I was sort of thinking that it wasn't going to be so likely that I was going to get it going again, but I had seen a video, which was that if you put rusted things inside vinegar, the acid will eat away all the rust, and the metal will be perfect. So I decided to give that a shot with this motor, but I wasn't sure if the acid would also ruin the windings. But it didn't. Instead, it just chewed away all the rust and it left the windings intact. So it actually fixed this engine, which is a lot better than trying to open it up and remove all the rust, because I tried that twice unsuccessfully. So, yeah. Very unlikely repair that actually worked out. So next time I encounter an engine with a corroded motor, I might just try that again. Just pull it out of the engine, chuck it in some vinegar, hope for the best. There is a 2-2-2-2 locomotive. I think it was I think it was the T1 or S1, as most people called it, the Duplex Locomotive, and it was almost a failure, but I hear they're trying to build a new one. Yeah, I remember somebody sending me a video about that, I don't know, I guess somebody pledged funding to build one of those engines, but there's some sort of a challenge with that. If they successfully build one of those in the modern day, though, that'd be exciting. But what I think would be really, really exciting, I'd be willing to travel pretty far to see something like this, would be if they ever decide to build Hiawatha. I don't know, some guy who's really loaded and likes trains, hopefully we'll do it one day, because seeing a Hiawatha in person, I don't know, it's something the modern world doesn't get to experience. That GG1 runs pretty smooth, Harrison. Well, that's the funny thing. It's one of the few which actually, hasn't been, restored properly, and it runs better than a lot of the other ones. Well, right now it's not running so great. I don't know. Maybe the vinegar fix is finally coming back. Sounds like something's grinding. I don't know. Maybe it needs more maintenance than I thought. This happened months ago, though, and it's been running fine ever since, so I don't know. Rossi engines can be fickle. Weird. Oh well. So, of course, right as somebody says, hey, it's running nice, it decides to start running like crap. What's your most favorite A-class locomotive? I don't know. Got any advice on how to fix an old Rossi steamer that hums? Sounds like the drive is seized. Just take things apart, clean them up. Just make sure the drivers are all in alignment, because sometimes things get dented in, and if something goes wrong with the drivers, it can seize the entire thing. If you somehow read this after the stream, here's my thought. Get a 2-2-2 to balance, not 4 2s. You need stiff trucks and heavy tender to support the locomotive. The way they want to get rid of fossil fuels, the Hiawatha is doomed. Yeah, well, I think fossil fuels are probably the most practical way to generate steam. But it's not impossible to run a steam engine off of electricity. I mean, you just need to generate steam. You could build a giant kettle on the inside. Now, the amount of power you would need to do something like that, I don't even know how many kilowatts something like that would take. I'm sure it'd be a ridiculously high number, but yeah, it is not impossible to run a steam engine off of electricity. I don't know if it's actually ever been done before, though. I mean, technically, you know, you just need to generate heat, so you could put uranium rods into a steam engine and power it that way. I don't know if that probably also has never been done before, but it could be done. I think there have been some people too who have run. I don't think it's been done with a full-size steam engine before, but I believe some small switcher steam engines have been converted to run off electricity, where they actually added an electric motor to it. I believe they've done that before. It's just because if you run the steam engine off of an electric motor instead of using actual steam, the benefit is you don't have to pass a boiler inspection or anything like that. It just falls under very different regulations. So, yeah, I think there are some steam or ex-steam engines which are battery powered, which is kind of funny. But I'm talking about very tiny, like logging 040 style steam engines. Again, I don't think they've ever done that with a full-size one. Yes, they did try electric steam locomotives in Germany, I believe. Basically a little steamer with a pantograph on top, powered heating coils, and boiled the water. Interesting, so it has been done. I just wonder how efficient it is to convert electricity into heat, because it takes a lot of energy to do that. Like, an electric motor is a pretty efficient thing, so I wonder how much in comparison generating steam would create. Nick the Trainer, it's been done. The Swiss put a pantograph on some of their steam engines during the Second World War due to the coal shortage. Oh, there we go. Do you have the Flying Scotsman? Well, I don't know if it's the Scotsman or the Flying Scotsman. Let's have a look. It's the Scotsman. It's this one here. You run a streetcar, sure. You should try to make the shortest diesel you can that still has trucks. Oh, that's a challenge. There it is. It was Swiss. Do you have any Thomas and French engines that are HO? Just wondering. Currently no. Electricity to steam, 99% efficient. Steam to locomotive power, 17% efficient. Okay, that's the number I was curious about, because, I mean, yeah, I guess it makes sense that, you know, if you're converting electricity into heat, you're not really, well, I mean, you're using all the power, so I guess it's efficient, but then actually converting that steam into power, can't imagine is terribly so, versus an electric motor. I think an electric motor is something like 80% efficient. It might be higher, I don't know. They generate very little heat, at least comparatively with a combustion engine, but of course you've also got a battery in most cases, unless you're using like a streetcar, which is way smarter. Is this layout in your basement or garage? It's in a basement. apparently there is a 222 American locomotive called Pioneer, which worked on the Cumberland Valley Railroad in the late 19th century. Huh. What happened to the road parts of the street? Nothing. The challenge is if I wanted to extend the line, it would go through here. So trying to build a cross section would be a nightmare. So I decided not to run the line very far. But it looked weird having two different types of streets. So one day I just took some paint and painted the whole thing just so it all kind of matches a little bit better. It's not perfect, but it's an improvement. If you made the world's shortest diesel with trucks, you'd have to do a tug-of-war against the Santa Fe. Well, unless you managed to make a really short diesel, which was quite tall, with a lot of lead in it, I don't think you could make something that would have better traction than that, especially since that thing has traction tires. Why is the Hiawatha siding torn up? I was having a lot of problems with these switches along here, so the plan now is to add a switch here and make this 2 tracks. The second track will reconnect all 3 of these lines, but the benefit is those switches are now off the main line, so I shouldn't have as many problems. Plus, having another track is useful because I can park trains on it, and I can also, if I can connect a line up to this side, I could actually run 2 trains on just this layout alone, which is sort of an advantage because I can already run 2 trains on that layout. I can already run 2 on this layout. If I connect that line up, I can run 1. If I can connect 2 lines up, I can run 2. So I could run 6 trains at the same time, all on their own track. I dare you to put the big boy on the street track for a cursed image. All right, I'll do that, and then I think I'm going to finish off the stream because we are getting pretty late, but I'll try to run it on the street. Why not? Well, there you go, folks. Now, moment of truth. I'm feeling the go train, my dude. Run that if you're not too bombarded. All right, we'll do that as well, but then I better finish things off. This is not working great. Uh-oh. Well, it worked a little better. I think the problem is the flanges are so large on this engine, they're actually sitting on the road, so the power is not getting to the wheels as well as it should. It's pretty funny seeing that, though. Imagine that thing barreling down the road. If I was driving a Prius, I would run for the hills. We have the makings of the next Dodge commercial. It will feature a big boy. Hey SMT, I have a quick question. Do you know how to clean HO scale track? My track is dirty and I'm setting up for a Christmas layout for the new equipment I'm getting. Do you have any way to clean track? Could use, if you want to just remove carbon and stuff like that, you can use a really, if you want to use rubbing alcohol, make sure it's the kind that has mostly alcohol. Do not want to use like 50%. 90 or higher is really what you want to be using. So whatever has the least amount of water in it. Another thing you can do is you could get a, I think they're called a Bright Boy, or some people call them a track eraser. This one I have happens to be from Pico, but I'm pretty sure you can buy some other ones. These are pretty good for removing oxidation from the track. Not everybody in the hobby likes these because they allegedly leave rubber deposits on your track, which can lead to some problems, and they're very abrasive. So on brand new track, this is not fantastic because it will actually scrape off anti-oxidization layers. But if you have really old track, this can be a pretty good way at resurfacing it. So that's one thing. It's very simple. If you want to avoid the rubber deposits, you could get yourself a fiberglass pencil. These are like $8. Doesn't really matter as far as I know what brand you get. These will not, you're not going to have the deposits or anything like that, so that's a good solution. But you do have to be careful because these fibers, if you get them on you, they're not great for you, and they'll make your skin itch. So you have to watch where you use those. And there are tons of anti-oxidization coatings and things people use. But keep in mind, again, if you're using old track, which is already really dirty or really oxidized, you need to get that off before you go putting those things on it. What's your favorite Canadian railroad? CN. 99 alcohol would be best. Exactly. I think you can get 99 alcohol online. You can. I don't think you could buy that at a pharmacy, but I could be mistaken. But yeah, avoid 50%, 70%. You know, those have a lot of water in them. So the less alcohol you have in it, or the more alcohol, the less water you have in it, is the best, because the alcohol will evaporate really quickly, so it won't really do much to the track. I think there are some people too that use lighter fluid to clean their track, but I'm not sure if that might have a negative impact. It will certainly remove the carbon, and it won't oxidize the track, but I just don't know if it would allow dust and stuff to stick to it. Bad idea. It could be. It could also potentially melt the plastic. But however you do clean the track, put a little bit on some cloth and just rub that on the rails. Try to avoid touching the ties. The new SMT mainline is up and running. I'm not running a Discord server. So I don't know if somebody's gone and made a Discord server for the channel, but yeah, I didn't order that. SMT, have a good night. Thanks for joining in. Yeah, thanks for joining, everyone. I made one myself. Okay, well, it's an unofficial SMT server. Just pointing that out, because last time there was an SMT server, I kept getting all these emails from angry people about how I was mismanaging the server, even though I wasn't really managing it. So I just don't want that to happen again. But yeah, I don't know, whatever. Anyway, I think I'll finish off the stream. Thank you all so much for joining in. I really do appreciate it. I hope you all had a good time. I certainly had fun running all the trains and chatting with all of you. And hopefully we'll do another stream in the not so distant future. But until then, thank you all so kindly for watching.